Are you all students at NYU?
Yes. This whole panel is carried on how artistry and students intertwine the two for the promotion of social justice.
And don't forget to turn
Yes.
it on.
Excellent.
So these are game changers, groundbreakers, trailblazers right here.
Excellent.
So we will only work with these mics. I will. My mother Lydia has influenced me to be who I am today through her existence as a Caribbean mom, through being fierce, loving, and independent, having been born with hearing loss. She always made sure that she was in my corner and that I was going to, not be disadvantaged by it. And I think she succeeded for sure. And I would say, being a young black woman, the Caribbean diaspora, you need resilience, and that is definitely one thing she has given me through those three qualities, and that is something I'm internally grateful for, and I wouldn't want to have that any other way. So that is my mom, and that is why I am who I am today. My mother Lydia has influenced me to be who I am today through her existence as a Caribbean mom, through being fierce, loving, and independent, having been born with hearing loss. She always made sure that she was in my corner and that I was going to, not be disadvantaged by it. And I think she succeeded for sure. And I would say, being a young black woman, the Caribbean diaspora, you need resilience, and that is definitely one thing she has given me through those three qualities, and that is something I'm internally grateful for, and I wouldn't want to have that any other way. So that is my mom, and that is why I am who I am today.
Evening. This is Latin American Theater Experiment Associates, short LaTea. Welcome, bienvenidos. We have emergency exits here and there in case you need to go out. The restrooms are this way, and we're very happy you could join us today. My name is Miguel Treyes, and together with Miguel Valderrama on tech, together with Tatiana Martinez, our executive office assistant, and Navy Perez, who's doing social media, we are carrying on the legacy of the people that created this theater and that took over this building. This is the Clemente Soto Vélez Cultural Center, and it's a center for arts and culture, Puerto Rican, Latino, and multicultural. Today we're presenting a program titled "And the Dream Lives On," a discussion about the future generations' movement for liberation. This program has been organized by Najah Zakiya Alridge, and to give you a brief background about LaTea, LaTea was established in the mid-'80s. Our founders eventually made their way to this building, dragging a bar, a beautiful bar that we have there, and they basically were looking to act, to direct, to do theater, but also to raise awareness about Latinos in theater and the performing arts. Our founders Nelson Landrieu harks from Uruguay, Nelson Tamayo from Ecuador, and Mateo Gomez from the Dominican Republic. The two Nelsons have passed away. Mateo is with us. They were joined by Nelson Landrieu's wife, Marta Vega from Puerto Rico, and eventually a board member of LaTea, a writer called Ed Vega Yunque. He took over the building, or helped them take over the building, and the rest is history. The program tonight is part of a series called eMeleK, an Afro-Latin thing for Martin Luther King, and it is the product of a friendship between Taylor Roger, a librarian, community member, and a friend, and myself. And we created this 5 years ago. Since then, Roger passed away, but not only Dr. King's spirit, which is the inspiration for all of this, lives on, but also Roger's memory in this theater. And so tonight we're going to have an invocation, and it's going to be presented or carried out by none other than Deb Taylor, Roger's widow, a friend, a retired history professor, and a community member. So, Deb, if you're around, could you please join us? Thank you.
Hello, good evening. I'm so happy to be back in this space. I haven't been, I think, since January 2020, because there was nothing last year, I think because of the pandemic. But this place means so much to me because it meant so much to Roger. That was my soulmate. And I think, and in part my reading this, because I was getting notes down, and I want to make sure that I there were some quotes of Dr. King's that came to my head, so I wanted to make sure I included them in my remarks. But I think Roger's MO, or his modus operandi in life was, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And that's what he always did. When Roger and Miguel first came up with this idea of this sort of multicultural celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King's life, I was like, you know, this is good. This is like freaking genius. And it just fit. It fit in with Roger's sense of wanting to do for others, because he said if we could bring scholars and artists and others to the Lower East Side. Oh, sorry, thank you. If we could bring scholars and artists and musicians to the Lower East Side, maybe this can become like an annual event. So he said, well, he and Miguel thought the idea would be, you know, if we bring them in, but somehow we weave in and give little bits of Dr. King's life and history and just things about him that people might not know. Because I remember the first year, you had, was it Zenon, Marcus Zenon, or the musician? And I didn't realize that Dr. King was like a huge jazz buff. And like my husband was like a maniac for jazz. So, so we're just weaving all those pieces together. And, you know, Roger imagined this growing every year. So the first year in 2018, I believe it was a great program, a week-long program. It came off to a really good start, and he felt really good. Now, mind you, just the year before, he had been diagnosed with cholangiocarcinoma, which is a very rare cancer. But somehow, after the eMeleK celebration, it gave him life. He was upbeat and happy, and that whole year, and our son here could tell you, he was like really good in 2018. By the next celebration, 2019, you know, his energy was low due to the chemo treatments, but he, you know, didn't always feel like he wanted to do stuff. But as Dr. King said, and he would mention this to me, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And that's what he did. Every day, planning this, and even after the event was over, he was writing his journals every day. He was always planning something. And so the program in 2019, again, very good, and he got a little burst of energy after that too. He was feeling really good. But by May, he was gone. And I was lost for a long time. But I think the thing that kept me going was because I realized that Roger had always tried to keep things going. He had this faith. He even said, I'm going to beat this thing. He really believed it. And I said, well, his faith was never shaken. And I said to myself, well, what is the sense of me coming home, this is after he passed away, coming home at night and sitting in the dark and just being miserable? I have to move forward. And I had this dream one night that I had seen Roger at the bus stop, and I was so happy. And he wouldn't say anything. I'm talking, he's nodding his head, which was probably like life, because I was always talking. He's, okay, Deb. And he was pointing me in the direction of a bus, like, go get on that bus, get on the bus. And I was hesitant, but I was running across the street to get to the bus when I woke up, and I said to myself, that was Roger saying, you have to go on. I'm okay where I am. You just go on with life. And I thought of something else that Dr. King had said, is that we must walk on in the days ahead with audacious faith in the future. And that's what he was telling me in the dream. And I believe that's what he wanted me to do in my life. And he also wants this for the eMeleK celebration every year here that I know is going to grow. And once people are out and used to being out, after the pandemic, it's just going to be a thing. I know it. It's going to be a happening, as they used to say back in the day. So, and then I just want to give a brief bio about Roger. You know, he was born in Brooklyn, But when he was 3 years old, he and his mom, his sister, his dad, and his grandma, they moved to the Lower East Side. So you might as well say he was like a native Lower East Sider. He attended the schools in the neighborhood. He went to 110. He went to 12, which is now a fancy apartment building. And then he went a little bit further uptown for high school. He went to Stuyvesant when it was all boys, so that was way back. And then, even though he went to school in Ohio, he went to Oberlin in Ohio, he finished there, and then he came back to the Lower East Side. And when we met, he brought me to the Lower East Side. We got an apartment down here. When my son was born, he is a native Lower East Side. Matter of fact, his room is Roger's room from when he was a kid. So it's like a full circle piece. So Roger was, for many years, the branch librarian at Hamilton Fish, which is right on Houston Street, so it's not far. And he got very involved with wanting to do for others there. He brought in like these spoken word poets, and he had these writing workshops for teens, and he actually brought in artists from Rikers Island. The inmates from Rikers Island had the most incredible talent, and he would do this big show, and people wanted to buy them, but obviously, you couldn't because they were prisoners, but it was like he was really into bringing like these art and cultural pieces to the Lower East Side. But he was also a big social justice advocate and a New York history buff. And with Fred Jerome, he wrote a book called Einstein on Race and Racism, which is about Albert Einstein's little-known anti-racism. I mean, he was the anti-racist before it became popular. Friends with W.E.B. Du Bois and all these other people. So with all of this background, that's when he met with Miguel, and they started to bring this celebration together because like I said, he wanted just to connect the musicians and the artists and all the folks to the Lower East Side, present a show for the community, and also give a little bit more knowledge of Dr. Martin Luther King. So, yeah, so that's why we're here. And so thank you for listening to a little bit about my honey. Missed that guy. So let's give a start to this evening's discussion about how Dr. Martin Luther King, or somebody told me to always say Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., has directly influenced the studies and artistry of a panel that's been put together by Najah Zakiya Aldridge. Now, Ms. Aldridge was born and raised in Queens, which is my home borough. I didn't realize that until just now. She's a senior at NYU's College of Art and Sciences. NYU's my alma mater, so we have that in common. And she is currently majoring in global public health and sociology with minors in dance and Spanish. That's impressive. She has researched and worked with the Clemente Soto Velez organization on this building for a while. And so I am right now going to welcome Ms. Zakiya Aldridge.
Yay!
I don't. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, honey. Get the mic.
Hello. Hey, y'all. Hey, everyone. Hi. My name is Najah Aldridge. Thank you, Ms. Debbie, for introducing this event to us. I've heard snippets of what eMeleK is about, but I haven't heard the whole thing, and that was very inspiring. And it actually really connects to what we're doing here today. Today we have some students who are going to intertwine their artistry and their studies for the promotion of social justice. But I would like to lay down some ground rules first. This is a free-flowing discussion. I want to hear from all of you. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your very inklings that go around in this discussion. We're going to be discussing some really incredible topics, and I can't wait for you to meet my panelists. So welcome, my panelists. Okay, perfect. Yes. So how I found out about the Clemente and Teatro LaTea was through my fellowship last summer. I had a fellowship with the Gallatin Global Fellowship in Urban Practice during the summer, and I had that with Lau, actually. And I was paired with the Clemente, and through that organization, I did a study about how the Clemente came to be. Like, it's this wonderful, you saw it, this huge institution covering up more than half the block, and it promotes and really encourages and preserves Latinx culture, specifically Puerto Rican as well. So I want to know how it came to be. I want to create my own Black Dance Educational Center, so I want to put this into existence, and I want to be like, how can I make this my goal, my dream, how can I make that come true? So I was researching different organizations in residence. They have about 18 organizations in residence here, and LaTea was the last one that I needed to interview. And I came into the office, and Miguel was like, yeah, come on in, like, welcome inside. And it was just such a wonderful interview. He's such a beautiful spirit. Thank you, Miguel. And he was like, hey, I'm doing this event in January, which became February because COVID, yeah. So he was like, if you want to curate something, I was like, I have an idea or two up my sleeve. So welcome to my panelists. This is how this idea came to be. And it was really a time where I got to sit back and be like, hey, what are other students around me doing, and how are they using their artistry and their platform to promote social justice? I never really got a chance to do that. Usually our lives are very independent. You could go a lifetime without knowing what anybody else is doing around you. So this really gave me the breath to be like, hey, what are my fellow peers doing here? And I found some amazing stuff. Introduce my panelists. So I met Lau from the Gallatin Global Fellowship in Urban Practice. If any of you are in NYU and a part of Gallatin, I would say yes, and they still allowed me in. So it was really a beautiful experience to work with the cultural arts organization. And Lau was one of my classmates. We had a class semester the semester before doing our research. And her presentation at the end at the symposium was really captivating in the way that she was able to intertwine things from, she wasn't even in the country, and she was able to do her whole summer project around an organization based in New York, like the location and everything. It was phenomenal to me. Can't wait for you to share that. I met Ruah from the Academic Achievement Program. They had a talent show, and Ruah, she's about to show you what blew my mind. And then Nina I met from my roommate Ruth, who she has many friends of the same caliber who's interested in social justice, who's interested in the arts. And I was like, hey, do you have any friends who might be interested in this? She was like, yeah, Nina. And Nina replied promptly and so wonderfully, and I'm so excited for you all to be here. Introducing Lau.
Okay, hi y'all. So like Naja was saying, I am Lau, and we met during this summer research program, and I feel like our research was really parallel because I was working with this place called the Loisaida Center. It's a couple blocks up, and they do a lot of similar things with like arts and activism and like doing residency with artists and stuff. So I got to like see a lot of Naja's work and a lot of my work parallel and intersect in really interesting ways. A little bit more about myself. I just graduated from Gallatin with a major in political fictions. I am a journalist, a writer, and I really, really like coloring. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Okay. My name is Ruah. My pronouns are she, they. My major is social and cultural analysis at CAS at NYU. I met Naja, yeah, she explained it, at this AAP event. They were doing like a talent show type thing. And
What is AAP?
Academic Achievement Program.
Yeah. Wait, what does it stand for in terms of the values?
I don't really know, to be honest. Oh, students of color, helping them like get accustomed to the environment of a PWI, predominantly white institution, especially if like they're the first people to go to college and stuff. Yeah, so I wasn't actually supposed to like present anything, but something was telling me to like play my poem there, and I did, and it was my first time presenting it. This is going to be my second time. And I'm glad I did, because Naja came up to me after that, and she told me about this, and I was very enthusiastic, like saying yes. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you.
Big head. I'm Nina. I'm in Gallatin. My concentration at Gallatin is the arts, education, and social justice. I also make art. I am interested in how the arts can serve as a tool through education to promote social justice and empower youth to like understand their power in the world and be able to voice their needs and their desires. To me, it's one of the most powerful ways to move forward and work towards progress. So those are my interests. I also make art. And yes.
We're about to see some tonight. So as you could tell, these are some beautiful, amazing people that we have here, and I can't wait to hear your perspectives. Okay, so on to the discussion now. Can you describe your first experience within your medium?
I can go. So, picture this, 2019, the summer. Tompkins Square Park is historically like a site for like skater culture, you know, punk rock, the underground, like that's the vibe. And so there's this empty lot towards the southeast corner of the park that the city wanted to knock down and put in Children's Park, and the skaters weren't happy about this. So I was part of this student paper called NYU Local, and my editor was like, go cover that. And I thought by cover that, she just meant like show up and write a couple sentences about what they did and what they were protesting. And so I submitted a one-paragraph summary and called it a story. My editor was not happy about it, and the story did not run. And I felt like a total failure, and like I would never, ever write anything ever again in my entire life. Fast forward 3 years later, where I realized that I've written like this entire community zine as part of a research kind of fellowship. And so all that to say is that your first experience in your medium might just be a failure. But if you pick yourself up from it, like, you'll be fine. You really will be fine.
So do you want?
You're good.
I have no idea. I mean, well, I don't know. Like, I did a lot of different stuff growing up. Like, I was a spoken word girl at first. Yeah, and then I realized this is maybe not for me. But that was, I feel like, the first time I felt like powerful in creating and making, because I got to perform and it felt like really right. And I wrote this poem about, like it was the first like big protest I ever went to when I was in high school. That was like right after like whatever his name is got elected. Yeah, he who shall not be named. But yeah, and I just remember like feeling, you know, just so inspired by that experience. Yeah, and then I like wrote a poem, and then I, you know, and then I was like, this is what I want to do. This is cool. Yeah, yeah.
For me, it was a talent show, and I was like, I want to get into poetry, so I wrote a poem for it, and I won. But like ever since then, I've been using poetry to channel like pain and like feelings that I can't through other avenues, I guess. Yeah.
So we have a array of experiences here, and thank you for that advice about your first time. Maybe I might pick up a little thing or two from that knowledge. Why did you choose NYU to continue your studies or your artistry?
I'm not doing anything with my artistry at NYU, but NYU has a lot of resources, even if you don't decide to like go through with your preferred medium, you still have access to those resources if you try really hard.
Yeah, I feel like the network, like NYU is humongous, you know, and I feel like everyone who goes there like has a love-hate relationship with it.
Right, talk about it.
You know, because NYU, like, there's wonderful community to be found there, but NYU itself is a very like yeah, like polarizing institution, and maybe, you know, one that as an individual I wouldn't say that I love and support, but because of its size and because of its resources, so many of us have opportunities to connect with like-minded people and grow community and have influence bouncing off of that. So, I mean, every day I'm like, what am I doing here? And then I'm like, I have to get the most out of it. I have to get the most out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I feel that. Like, I was doing this story on housing and like affordable housing, and you know, there's a very large housing development a couple blocks down, and it's kind of the only one in Manhattan. And I was realizing that one of the gentrifiers was my university. And that was a very, very shocking moment when I realized that, like, every time that I put my education on my resume, I myself am complicit in the gentrification of this low-income housing project. And I'm just going to have to deal with that, like, morally as a person. And it was a really hard moment because, like, a lot of my friends go to NYU, and a lot of my community's from NYU, and, like, a lot of like who I am as a person and as a writer is from like this institution, but I'm also complicit in like a lot of the not cool things that this institution does. So it's very much like a balance. I feel like you have to like strike. Like, how do you live with yourself?
You organize against them.
Yeah.
Okay, I see you.
Exactly.
Some may say that you might start with these conversations right here.
Ooh, okay.
Ooh. Do we have any artists in the audience? Oh,
hi,
this is so
guys.
beautiful to
Welcome.
see. Can I hear some voices about what people do? Are you able to?
Yeah,
you said
we do.
poetry? Oh. Should we put a mic on him? Should we? It seems like no. It seems like. Would you like to come down and speak? Yes. Yeah, mic him up. Oh, you come here. Yeah, can you speak a little bit more about your artistry and how that?
Oh my gosh. Okay, spotlight. Okay, love-hate relationship, heavy on that with NYU, but also how it kind of did spur my artistry, and like, honestly, it really is the connections and like what you make out of it, and the more I like grounded in what I wanted to do and why, like the artistry just came, and like being surrounded by so many beautiful, especially melanated Black artists such as yourself has really inspired me and has like pushed me to like be like, oh, wait a minute, I am an artist, and/or this is what I want to do, and keep growing within until I become more stable in it, and it's inevitable. So yeah, and I'm also in Gallatin, and yeah, I've been trying to see ways in which I can be more than one thing, you know. As you'll see on my Instagram or whatever, the handle is a multi-hyphenate, okay? So,
What's your name?
my name is Ezeki MJ Ali. Don't forget the name, you know what I'm saying? Website, ezekiali.com.
Yeah!
And let me just spell it one more time. A-Z-E-K-I.
No, but yes, audience participation. We love to see it. We love to see it. Okay. Thank you. Okay. But taking it back to our panelists, what classes have you taken that has really influenced your perception and your studies as well as your artistry? Let it simmer.
I mean, I don't, okay, so yeah, so I guess going back to the last question, like another reason why going to Gallatin has, or NYU in general has its perks is because as like high standing institution or whatever, like we have opportunities to take classes that are, I guess, I don't know, maybe not available, or I guess this is like a Gallatin experience, but like the classes are very interdisciplinary and are very open-minded. What is Gallatin?
Yeah.
Gallatin, the Gallatin School of Individualized Study
What do you do
at
there?
NYU. You make your own major.
Oh.
spokesperson. Just kidding. Yes, so this semester I'm taking a class called Women's Textiles with Professor Maisha Priest. If you're in Gallatin, please take a class with her. She's incredible. The class is basically Black women's textile quilting artwork as well as Black women's literature, specifically American. And what I guess like what I've taken away in general from my experience of taking classes at Gallatin is that I feel like, of course, it's important to zero in on specific topics and you know, have a specific focus, but to me, there's so much value in seeing things and the way they overlap and the way they intersect. And so like this one class, yes, it's about these specific authors and it's about specific texts and about specific works of art, but like we talk about every topic under the sun. We talk about womanhood, we talk about the body, we talk about politics, we talk about science, we talk about home economics, we talk about, you know, like nothing operates in a vacuum. Right. Nothing functions alone. And so like understanding that everything is a system and everything is overlapping and works in tandem, and every individual is working with other individuals. I don't know, I just feel like that mindset is how I feel naturally, and so being able to explore that in an academic space is really amazing. I took another class called No Justice, No Peace, Peace Building, Social Movements, and Intellectuals. Yeah. Shout out to Marissa Tremontano. She was my professor for the name. That was a good name. But it was a fantastic class, and it was the first class that I was ever in where, like, you know, you're in college, you're required to write like a shit ton of, of like academic papers, and you have to use scholarly sources, research articles, you know, that have been like vetted and worked on for years and years and years and put through, you know, like scholarly organizations or whatever. And this was the first class where our professor like allowed and encouraged us to look to like people doing the work in the community as sources and find information from the people doing the work, the people involved in the things we were talking about, so as to like lower the distance between us. Because there's, you know, this thing in academia where like theory, blah, 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 and then it's like, where do we go? You know, yeah. What are we talking about if we're forgetting that what we're talking about is meant to serve what's happening, and what's happening serves then how we talk about it. And it's like, again, a cycle and a system. So, yeah.
That segues, oh, sorry, clap for her. That segues so perfectly into the class I wanted to talk about, which is one I'm taking right now. It's called Justice Lab with Amin Hussein. And like, he's the only person I was actually really excited to take a class with at NYU because he applies theory and to practice. He organized this subway, I don't know what it's called, like action, I'll call it an action. And they blocked off like the exit doors with plastic bags, so when it closes, it doesn't lock and people can still walk through. And that's the kind of work I'm trying to get involved in. And he also like, he dedicates a specific amount of time in every class to present like poetry. And I think, I don't know, you don't get that in every class. It's interdisciplinary. He shows movies and like we make up the syllabus ourselves together as a class, so it's not, you don't know what you're gonna learn or have to read beforehand, but you put in the work together, and I really like that.
No, yeah, for sure. And I feel like that's something Dr. King did a lot, like integrating like, you know, music and like poetry into like his work. Yeah, that's something. For my class that I was going to talk about is this point of view class that I took in the journalism department. It was an elective class. And what we did is that our professor would just like give us an assignment, like, you know, go to the Notorious RBG exhibit at the New York Historical Society, or walk down and have a pickle at the pickle factory, or go to a diner and have coffee with your friends. And then you'd write about that experience. And what that taught me is that we have these like weird boxes for like our academic selves and like our artistic selves. And like like you were saying, Nina, like it's like academia is kind of stuffy a lot of the time, and it doesn't give space to recognize that you're a human and that you're going through things. And so what I really learned from this point of view class is that you can integrate your life, and that like even like, you know, going on the subway can also itself be an adventure, and that like my own art kind of draws from my life, and that they're not like completely separate, is probably the biggest lesson that I took from that class. Yeah.
Also, Amin Hussein, he's an organizer with Decolonize This Place.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he's really, really cool.
He's really cool.
I have not taken his class, but I've heard so much about him. I like know his biography.
I hope y'all have been taking notes, those of y'all in Gallatin and go to school at NYU. Who goes to NYU here? Oh, the whole gang over there. Hey, y'all. Okay, this really segues beautifully into our next segment about the social justice movement. I'm really happy that you all get a chance to intertwine justice and artistry, especially Ruah, in your class. Like, these are real-life examples that you're able to practice and further on. But what was your first interaction with the social justice movement? How did that passion ignite?
We call it the student activist industrial complex, after the shooting in Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in Florida. That's when I didn't get involved with March for Our Lives, but a lot of my friends did, and so I interacted with that community a lot, and I guess that's where it was sparked, because I saw people my age, people I was friends with, like doing stuff, organizing stuff, going outside. And even if that wasn't something that I saw myself doing, I knew that like it was possible for me in that space to do something, like to go down some avenue, even if it was like artistry. So yeah, that's where I came in contact with it originally.
Same? That's like so funny. Well, I guess it's not funny, like a lot of people, but a lot of people were activated after that happened. And like I grew up in Miami, which is like an hour away from where that happened. So there was a lot going on also around me at that time. And I had been involved, like since I began getting involved in poetry, I had been involved in like going to protests and had been invited to like perform at protests, which like from the beginning, so it makes me feel like from the beginning my interest in art was always, or in the arts or in writing, like was always intertwined with an interest in like activism, I guess, and protest, I guess, and I after that, you know, like started organizing at school and became more involved in like the process of organizing through that, and organized different actions. And you know, like a year later, we had like after the year anniversary, because it was on Valentine's Day, we had like, I forgot what we called it, but it was like a day of promises or like love or something. I don't know what it was, but yeah, and like gave a speech, and you know, I don't know. I felt like it was a place where I could be a leader and also use writing, which at the time was really powerful for me. And like speak to the people that I cared about that were in my community about the things that I cared about, and feel that I had an impact because I did, and you know, like I made things happen, and that was like really, really important, a really important experience, I feel like, yeah.
Yeah, so I grew up in Bogota, Colombia, and I don't know if you are familiar with the vibe there, but it's the sort of place where protesters get shot. And I first decided to become involved with this whole like social justice movement. Actually, it's been about a year now. Yeah, it's very discouraged. It's not the sort of thing that you do for fun in Colombia, but I felt really, really strongly about the national strike that went on starting the 28th of April of last year. And yeah, I knew I had school. I knew I still had to do work, but I just felt like it was a momentous point in Colombian history. And, you know, 20, 30 years down the road, I knew that I couldn't live with myself if I was not on the streets marching. And that was very, very scary to me. Because, yeah, there's just like a lot of stigma around protest in Colombia and around the world. But yeah, so that was a very scary thing for me to do. But looking back on it, I'm, one, glad I didn't get shot, and two, I'm glad that I did it. So yeah, it's probably my first involvement.
Thank you for that. With that being said, how have you found your support system?
Online mostly. Like none of the people that I like know face to face, except like my best friend who I like dragged to one protest, and she was freaked out the entire time, but it's fine. Yeah, so online mostly, and yeah, actually at NYU, a lot of people at NYU are more like okay with the whole protest thing. It's not as like taboo here, because you don't have like the generational trauma. Like, I don't know, the vibe is like no salgas a buscar lo que no se te ha perdido, which is like don't go out to look for that which you have not asked for, which is very much like live and let live. The kind of yeah, that's the vibe. So yeah, mostly at NYU. But yeah.
I would also say through the online community of activists and a couple people here from NYU organizing groups that, yeah, I appreciate, so.
I guess, I don't know, like, because when I started becoming more involved, I guess my family was very supportive of me, like my mom, like I grew up with my mom taking me to protests, which like is incredible, and I'm so grateful to have had her. Because I was trying to think like, what was my support system? Like I had a teacher at school, Miss Brooks, shout out if you're watching this, who, yeah, like she was extremely supportive of me and my interests in you know, social justice and getting involved and making things happen at my school. And so having a person, an adult, support me at that time was amazing. And a lot of my friends felt the same ways that I did, but obviously like being vocal about it and taking action is like a different thing that takes a lot of energy and a lot of vulnerability. And so I felt like I didn't necessarily like have people that I was doing it with, but I had support here and there that was enough. But when I did kind of get like burnt out, that was kind of, I'm realizing now, like maybe if I had more like close by friends who were as interested or as passionate as I was, then maybe I would have picked back up sooner or with more energy, you know, because once, you know, shit started going down and things became really overwhelming, I just felt like I had to take a step back, and I haven't like come back in the same way, with the same level of energy. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like something that one of my friends likes to say a lot is that we perish in isolation, but we thrive in community. And I feel like change isn't gonna, like if I, you know, go out and boycott this like large multinational corporation that's like burning down the Amazon, like that's not gonna do anything. Like just me. But like if you get like you and like millions of your other buddies, then that's probably gonna do it. So like I feel like what you were saying, like this community thing is like a really big deal to like do this sustainably and not get burnt out, like you were saying. Yeah.
She just reminded me that I also had this teacher. Teachers are so important, especially.
Shout out to teachers,
No,
honestly.
She was honestly so dope. She was the only black woman teacher I had in high school, and she did so much for us. So, yeah, Miss Daniels also, if you're watching this. Yeah, no. I don't think I would be here without her.
Teachers.
Teachers.
We love you.
Teachers. Black teachers.
That part.
Yeah, it's so beautiful to have a support system as you're enduring and seeing such violence around you. It's especially in Lau's case where it's life or death, and even my black people here, my melanated folk here, how it's life or death too. So understanding how your support system plays a huge factor in that. And I'm so happy that you got to recover after experiencing a moment of self-care, revitalizing some self-care there. It's not easy, and with community, it will get done. Do we have any more activists here? Hi. Would you mind sharing? Yeah. Oh, I love this for you. Yes. So what's your name and what does activism mean to you?
My name is Ivani, and activism is honestly my entire life. It's what I grew up on. What is my activism? I do a lot of activism involving mental health and youth mental health struggles, and it kind of means the world to me. I grew up in a household with a very politically charged pro-Black grandmother who taught me about the world, about my place in the world, and what I can do to thrive and help my community thrive. And also taught me the importance of community and what that means to support each other as a community to sustain ourselves, which is really important now. Yeah, and that's a little about me. Avani, my name's Avani Alvarez.
Yes. So nice meeting you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So we have many examples of people actually doing the work and in various ways. So you don't have to be on the streets in order, well, this panel is an example of that. And you don't have to be on the streets in order to make your mark, in order to move that mark a little bit towards your goal. Yeah. Also, let's go to the next question. Can you describe an experience that was most impactful on building your artistry and your voice through your art medium?
Yes. So I guess like the first one that comes to mind is back when I was speaking about how like the first thing I kind of got into was spoken word. I like wrote it because there was this spoken word like competition thing that would happen every year in my county called Piano Slam. And it was where students like would submit poetry, like anyone in the county could submit a poem. And if you were selected, you could either do like a general poem or like one like related to like science and like climate change and stuff. But it had to be related also to music. So I wrote a poem that was relating the protest that I went to like, it just involved a lot of like musical metaphors and stuff. So when you're selected, you get to perform in the Adrian Arsh Center, which is this big theater in Miami. And I think it's one of the like biggest theaters in the country or something. So I was selected and like having that experience, first of all, it was the first time I ever did anything like that. And like being chosen in something that I didn't really know that I was good at, and being asked to like express my voice on something that was like very emotional and very charged. And I remember like, and then so they do this whole production with musicians and dancers, like trained dancers come and work with the kids, and like it's this whole long performance, and each kid performs, and there are kids who are in like 6th grade all the way to like 12th grade, and there's like whole choreography and classical pianists playing. Yeah. So it was just an incredible experience. And again, like in my mind, I guess like this is why these things are so intertwined for me, because I always experience them together, and the power that art can provide for social movements and for the way it can empower a message and empower communities. And I remember like I got to do my poem like by myself on stage, because they would like kind of bring the kids in groups, and like there would be 3 kids on the stage, and like one would do their poem, and then there would be like a musical thing, and then another one would do their poem. And so I remember like I was like on the stage completely alone, and I was like, yes, this is my moment. This is it. And after my poem, like I like walked off. Like I didn't like wait or anything. Yeah, and it just felt like this incredible moment. Yeah, and then I ended up winning, and I was like, okay. So yeah, I guess like that experience was really powerful for me because I felt like, first of all, I felt like I'm good at something. I'm good at something that I care about. And also it was just so incredibly fun to share that experience with other kids in other schools who were also cared about writing and loved performing and had similar, so like I was developing community, I was developing confidence, and like that set for me the framework of what I'm interested in doing in life, which is creating opportunities like that for youth. Because once I did that, I realized, oh, if I can express myself in this way that is powerful, that engages people, then I can have them listen to what I need to say, and I can express my needs, and I can express my desires and what the world that I see and the way that I would like it to change. So like that to me is so important. That's why I'm interested in studying education and art, because I feel like together, like, they can do so much. Yeah, exactly. They're unbeatable. Yeah.
Just going off of that, what made me realize that I could do it was literally just seeing someone who looked like me doing it. So I don't know. That was a very good line of logic that you followed, and I'm glad you pursued it because I'm sure you inspired other people to do it.
Probably for me is the story that I wrote, because I've always felt that, like, my New York self and my Colombia self are like two different selves. Like, we have two different accents, we speak two different languages. Like, we're different people. Colombia Lau and, United States Lau. And my worlds collided in this one specific story I wrote in the context of the ongoing national strike of last year. And it was that former Colombian president, Álvaro Uribe Vélez, who's a very controversial and polarizing figure, he came to speak at NYU, and his event was overrun by protesters. And so my editor was like, oh, this is kind of a big story. Is there anyone to write? And I was like, me. like literally seconds after. And it was strange because I was like using all this knowledge that I brought as like Colombian Lau to my life here at like NYU as like, American Lau. And so it was cool to see that like they're not mutually exclusive. Like, you are allowed to be Latine and very much love your country and like stand for, these like really important things that are happening in like back home while you are studying abroad. So that was a really cool moment to realize that I didn't have to choose one or the other, that I didn't have to just, write the like American culture stories about the Avengers. Like, I was allowed to write about things that mattered to me and things that were going on back home that were super important to me.
Oh, thanks. Ruah? Do you have anything else to add? Oh, you good? Okay. With that being said, I know, Nina, you spoke about this wonderful experience which bled into your artistry now. How do you envision those other organizations that you want to work with, that are doing the work that you want to see, that are emulating the values that you want to see? This question proposes to all of y'all. Are there any organizations or any person that inspires you?
I was going to say decolonize this place. You mentioned it earlier because my professor, pretty sure he's a founder. That and working with students like part of SLAM and No NYPD, NYU, and the Abu Dhabi student activists.
Trying to think. I'm nervous and I'm blanking. But there are a lot of organizations, like, honestly, New York City, has its issues.
It does.
But it does provide, and like obviously to whom does it provide these opportunities, but it does provide a lot of opportunities to engage with the arts. Not as many as I think there could be, but definitely for youth, like through libraries and through public school. There's an organization that's based in New York, I think, but has national branches and has one in Miami called Project Art, where they provide like free art classes for young kids in libraries every week. And then they get to have a show with the resident artists who are the teachers. And so, you know, little kids have their art next to like, you know, a fully grown adult in a gallery. And like that experience, I imagine, like for a young kid, like if you could do it then, you could do it later, you know? Yeah.
I just want to add 2 more, actually. We the People, New York City, look them up on Instagram. They do really cool stuff. They feed the community every week on Thursdays from 1 to 3 between Nostrand Avenue and another street. But if you look them up, you can find them. And also For Our Liberation, 2 very inspirational works.
I want to shout out LaTea Inc. Because they're awesome and I work with them. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
What is LaTea Inc?
LaTea Inc. is a community cultural center, kind of centered on arts and like Latina kind of culture, especially in this part of the city, because right now you don't remember it, but like it used to be like super Puerto Rican, and it like some of those traces are getting erased. And so one of their big missions is to like preserve the memory of specifically this part of town. So they do a lot of really cool work. So shout out to them.
Just another example of people already doing the work, organizations already doing the work that we want to see. I could really see you working at Project Art, honestly, Nina. Like, hopefully this shout out would
That's the goal.
insinuate a little bit here.
This is my resume.
No, honestly, I think it'll go very nicely. And I don't think y'all heard Ruah. She said go on Instagram and look them up and follow them.
We the People _NYC, and then the other one is For Our Liberation, just straight like that. And yeah, they're doing very important work. They do. Talk to those 2 people right there in front of you. SLAM, Students Labor Action Movement.
Oh.
Yeah.
Building the network, building the connection. Okay, are y'all ready to see some awesome artwork? How y'all feeling? Oh, yeah. You honestly. Okay, we're gonna start with you, Lau.
Yes. So speaking of the LaTea Center, I made a zine, and I'm very proud of it. And this is the QR code. I did it as part of the fellowship that I was on with Naja. And yeah, I am super proud of it. There's lots of really, really cool things. I worked really hard. I interviewed lots of really cool people just to try to preserve the memory of this really cool part of town. So I'm very proud of that. It's called Quality of Life in LaTea, or Calidad de Vida en LaTea. It's a bilingual zine, so it's in English and Spanish, so you can do both. And I wanted to read my favorite poem from the whole thing, because as y'all know, there's no liberation without poetry.
Okay.
It's called Don Quixote de LaTea. It was written by this wonderful activist poet. His name was Bimbo Rivas. I talked to his daughter, who gave me permission to reprint this poem in my zine, and I just want to read it because it's a beautiful poem. This is an extract. I love you. You're my lady fair. No matter where I am, I think of you. The mountains and the valleys cannot compare my love to you. LaTea, I love you. I dig the way you talk. I dig the way you look. Me vacila tu cantar y yo me las juego fría pa que vivas para siempre. Even with your drug-infested pocket parks, playgrounds where our young bloods hang around waiting, hoping that one day when they too get well and smile again, your love is all that they need to come around. LaTea, I love you. Your buildings are burning up. That we gotta stop. LaTea, my love, te amo. And so it was really cool to reprint this poem that just really spoke to me just on a really deep level. Like, things are not as they are, but as you see them. And if you love something and you work at it hard enough, there is another future possible. And you know, Ruah saw this like burning building, like these drug-infested pocket parks is the phrase he used. And he thought that a new future could be possible. So he organized, and he created these like cultural centers and like community activism. They did lots of muralism, just making like the neighborhood more beautiful for the people living then. And I draw a huge inspiration from that. And then the other thing that I wanted to share with y'all is just as my work as a journalist. Like I was talking about previously, these are some of the articles that I've written, kind of combining my work as a journalist with my work as like a Latina. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be like, you know, El Chapo Guzman escaped from jail and now we are looking for him and that is an international search. And it's like yes, but like being Latina is so much more than that. Like you're allowed to talk about like arts and cultures. Like one of my favorite things that I ever wrote is our top 10 YA novels by Latina authors, because I love YA and I feel like YA is so important as like a kid and you're trying to figure out like your place in the world. And we just need more Latina YA because we need to be diverse, and art is representative of the world we live in and is formative, especially when you're a kid reading about these like superheroes that like have like superpowers and they do weird things, and so we just need more representation. And so it was cool to just like write about this like weird obscure love that I have of Latina YA, and that was something that I got to do and it got published. And I can't believe that someone would, you know, give me a platform to write about Latina YA, but like, you know, if that's the sort of thing that you love, then like, why not, you know? So that's what I have to share with y'all today. Yeah.
Yay. What is YA, Lau?
Young adult fiction.
Oh.
So like The Hunger Games, but make it Latino.
Yes. Can you plug anything for us?
Oh yes, I recently finished The Rock Eaters by Brenda Peinado. That's so good, so good. Also huge fan of Furia. And anything ever written by Benjamin O'Leary Science, Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe. You guys, I wept. Beautiful books.
It's gay. Yes. We love that.
Also, quickly, just going, Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe.
And there's a part 2. Aristotle and Dante dive into the waters of the universe, and it was released like the end of last year. It's so pretty. Okay, sorry.
Aristotle and Dante.
Going back to organizations also really quickly that like are doing the work. I don't know if you've been to El Museo del Barrio.
Oh, yes, I love that. Yeah.
But it's this museum
Yes,
uptown.
yes.
Yeah. It's like in the 90s right across from on the west side
of the queue line.
Yeah, it's at the end of the queue line on the west side of Central Park. It's a museum basically like collecting and showing art of Latina and Caribbean artists. And it's like amazing, but they'll have like block parties and community events and have kids come out and use the space and it's so funny because I had an internship at the museum next door, which is the Museum of the City of New York, which, you know, like great museum, but you know, the community outreach was lacking, I felt. The tickets are like $16 and like I didn't see any opportunity for people who like live in the city or live nearby, you know, like there's housing projects right nearby and I didn't see any outreach to like the local housing around. But El Museo is doing the thing. Yeah.
I'd add myself to that plug. Doubly endorsed.
Okay, lovely. Move on to our next feminist. Ruah, are you ready? Would you like to preface anything?
Yes, I just want to give context on who Oluwatoyin Salau is, who I wrote this poem for. She was an organizer. She was very, very loud and advocating for Black trans people, specifically, just Black people in general, but like very much loud for Black trans people. After the George Floyd protests in 2020, she was going home after a protest, and she went to this guy's house who like was willing to house her. I'm pretty sure she was houseless, and he killed her. Well, he raped her and killed her, and so yeah, I should have trigger warning that. But anyways, I just want to say this poem speaks specifically to the Black community, I think, and so this is not an issue exclusive to the Black community. You have out of men raping out of women and Latinx men raping, like, but yeah, it was just, I think a lot of Black women at that time didn't know how to take that news because we're fighting for all of us and we're getting violated by everyone. So that's why I wrote the poem. And yeah, and then I made a video for it with my friends.
Taking it away.
On mourning the loss of someone you've never met, on the discrepancies in missing the idea of an idea, a concept, a moment, on the juvenile yet inescapable platitude, it's not fair. For what is fairness if not entitlement, to assume congruity with the universe on righteousness, to expect that life and living is ours to experience. In all fairness, it is quite literally the antithesis of darkness, and so how could we ever expect something that is so blatantly not meant for us? If there is someone keeping count of the burdens, and in the end we are repaid in kind, I hope our mouths, Black women, Black trans women, overflow with blessings. Aluatoyan Salau. I miss you. I miss you. I've never known you, and yet I miss you. I love you. I'm a fool to love someone I've never met, and yet I love you. We're so alike, you and I. I draw my breath in the same way you drew yours, with purpose, with fatigue, and with passion. My footfalls mirror your own, trusting in each step to bring us closer to our destination, tired and scared and exhausted by the world. Nowhere to turn, nowhere to go from here. I want you back because I've been robbed. Yes, it's not fair. Never felt the pain that true looting could cause till I was robbed of the chance to ever know you, to ever support you from a distance while I bear witness to your resistance. I love you as you manifest your dreams into reality. I've been robbed, and it's not fair. In all fairness, white women have their whiteness to cling on to. Black men have their manhood to grasp with their last dying breath. Whereas our raft, our redemption, do we simply serve as an exemption? I can't help but to think that we're left drowning, that we've been drowning, suffocating in our isolation. Betrayal and despair flood our lungs. We are not palatable enough without that connection to white patriarchy. In reality, you treat us as if we matter that much less. And so I urge you to prop up the voices of our most marginalized. Make them the faces of our movement, for if we do not center the most alienated, we will continue to fail them, to fail ourselves, and most importantly, to fail Toyin.
So this is my second time seeing this. Oh, man. This is my second time seeing this, counting the first time at AP, and that was, even right now, I'm shaking. It's so riveting. It's so real, and seeing the many faces of my Black sisters, and I thank you. I thank you for this poem. No, thank you. Wait, how do you prepare to create something like this?
This is actually my first time making a video for a poem. I really do not, I don't know. I guess I can't answer that question, to be honest. I wasn't prepared to make it.
Ooh.
I just did it.
Yeah. Flip the question. I like it. I like it. No, that was the wrong question because you never ever truly.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, like, writing for you, do you feel like you process something and the result of that processing is the poem, or do you feel like the poem is the processing?
Definitely the second one. The poem is the processing. Because these are unresolved feelings. Like, this is unresolved work that she was doing. It was unresolved work that eMeleK was doing. Like, he never got to finish. She never got to finish, and we're still not done.
Yeah.
We're still not done, and it's in progress, very much so. Nina, do you want to take it away with your works?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. That's just Beautiful. Yes. So, okay. These two are, so, okay. These are two painting, collage, drawing things. And so I guess coming off of what you just spoke about, like the writing, the poem is the process, is the processing. I feel the same way about art. Whatever I'm making is me processing. I've never been able to like think like, oh, I'd like to write something about this or draw something about this and then do it. That's just not how my brain works. And I think this is when I realized that, because all throughout, well, so like I went to an art school for high school, which I feel so lucky and so grateful to have been able to do, to have the opportunity to like make art as part of my education. And at this time, I was going through the experience of, so when I was 12, I grew up with a white dad and a Persian mom and two white sisters younger than me. And then when I was 12, I found out that I had a different dad than them, and he was Afro-Cuban. And yeah, yeah. Yeah, so for the first couple of years, it was processing that the guy that I thought was my dad wasn't my dad, and this gentleman I didn't know was my dad. And then once I was like older, and in high school, I was grasping with like what that meant about who I was, and what it meant like to now know or now be Cuban, to now be Afro-Cuban, like what that meant. I didn't grow up with my dad, but he is still a part of me, and like now I'm much closer than I was at the time with him and my Cuban family. But at the time, it was very, very, very disorienting to have that experience and to like be literally processing. Like I have these really strong memories of just being in the shower, like shower thoughts, where I would be like, my father as me. Oh, I'm mixed. Okay, you know, like literally like mathing the math in my head, because also no one really in my family could share that experience with me. So it was kind of all internal, and no one I was around really could share that experience with me. Like all my friends were mostly white. Like I like my high school was mostly white. Like I didn't really have like a community to share that with. So it was all happening here in my head until I like was putting it on paper. And at the time I was also like just, you know, it was high school, and I was also processing like what it meant to be in my body, and like, so what that legacy of like who I was in my heritage, and culture, and like what that meant in my body. And then also just like having a body, and like, you know, high school, you're developing, you know, you're understanding what it means to be this or that, or and like gender and like what that meant also went into this piece. But at the time that I was making it and talking about it, I never spoke about that part. I never spoke about that part until years after I made it, because I guess at the time I wasn't finished processing it, even though I knew that that was part of what I was thinking about when I was making it. So it's like my mind goes blank when I'm making something, and it's like a fortune telling. Like I finish and I'm like, I see, okay, this is what I'm going through, you know. And it won't be until like months later that I realize like what I was thinking about when I was making it. Yeah, and these, you know, they warm my heart. They make me very happy, because they are just literally what I was experiencing at the time. And I would like write little lyrics of songs, like, you know, whatever. Yeah, so that's those. And I actually got like to win like a big award with these. Like it was extremely validating to like have that experience from these pieces, and I was inspired by like the artists around me, and specifically like my wonderful friend James Ballo. I don't think he's watching this, but I love him, and he inspires my art to this day. Yeah, so that's that. And then these are more recent. I took a photography class at NYU. And so I got into photography. And so this like top one on the right, we had an assignment where we just had to double ourselves, like we were learning how to edit. and I ended up making this. There was a lot going on, I guess, in me. I also have a habit of, like, for some reason, only being able to do self-portraits. I don't know if I'll grow out of that. But I remember being in high school, my teacher was like, why don't we try something different? And I would always go back. Like the earlier ones, when I titled them, the first time I titled, I just called them like Self-Portrait 1, Self-Portrait 2. Even though I wasn't really looking at myself, but they were obviously about me. Yeah, and so I guess like, also,
These are really, really good.
Thanks. So I kind of, this is also like I was being a character. I found through this process that there's like a level of vulnerability, but also a level of power that I find in like in representing my body, because it is extremely vulnerable to, like, you know, have like my butt out, you know, whatever. But yeah, it feels like that, and also, like in the later two, like you never see my face. And I feel like that also means a lot to me, because I feel like when you see like a femme body, there's this natural, I mean, obviously there's this natural inclination that we have, that we are socialized with, to like sexualize it. And I felt like I wanted to abstract that like desire. So like, I don't know, in the first one, like I was making all these weird faces, and there's all this, I don't know, this character and this like story going on, that I felt like distracted my body from only being like a physical sexual thing. And then I guess next I made this one, which as actually, so for the first like 6 years of my life, I lived in Staten Island, and then I grew up in Miami after that. And this was my grandmother's house, where my grandparents were the first people in my family, on my Persian side of my family, to come to the United States. And they were like the beginning of my family like coming to the United States. So now like most are here. But this house was like, and this, I learned all of this also after making this. So it just like keeps developing, I feel like, throughout time. But this house was like a hotel, basically, for family that was coming in and going and transitioning into living in the United States. And so like just being there, it was like abandoned at this point. Like they're gonna knock it down. But I like snuck in through like a side gate that was open. And so like that was going through my mind. And there was also that summer, like I had recently had a problematic sexual experience. And so I was just feeling all of that. And so that combination of like feeling at home and feeling extremely alien and uncomfortable, and sort of all of that was going on there, and like control and not having control, I guess. And then this one I made in my dorm last year, and I titled it "Need to Pray," looking for my prayer candles, which they're up there, they're there. I edited those in. They weren't even there. I don't know. But yeah, I guess like when I don't know, when I'm making something, like it sounds so like la la la, like big words and whatever. But like when I'm making something, I'm not thinking about any of this. I'm just like, this feels right. This like makes sense. Like words. The reason I like don't really write anymore is because I feel like my brain. The way that my brain and emotions work is that I feel like things are too expansive for me to want to name them. And I like ambiguity, and I feel like too much vulnerability in wanting to name things specifically. Like now I feel like when I write, it's only for me and I don't really share it. Because words are so direct that I feel too vulnerable. So like with this, they're all kind of very vague. And so like I feel like I can do that. And then this is the most recent work I've done. These images were from a collaboration I made with Savannah Faith Jackson, a photographer who's actually in the audience right now. Follow her on Instagram. She's so talented. She's my muse. So yeah, we took these photos together of each other, and I was taking a screen printing class at NYU, which I'll say, great class. You should take it if you can. Yeah, and I was just, these, and I've been talking for a while, but I'll just say like,
Take space, please.
I was thinking about like water and the relation. I feel very connected to water in a spiritual way. I grew, growing up in Miami, like water is everywhere. And the way the water connects to like the body, specifically my body, which is I guess like a femme body, and like water itself, the ocean, like holds all this significance as like the mother and the holder, and like water will hold you, you'll float, and without water we can't survive, and we are water, but also water like separates us, water like displaces us. Water is there's too much of it now, so it's causing a lot of problems. It's causing a lot of conflict. My family recently moved to another country, so like across on the other side of the world. So like the distance there, Manhattan is an island. So just like thinking about islands and the body as an island, and we're filled with water, but we're also, I don't know, we're separated from each other, yet we're all connected, and I don't know, there's just a lot of ideas there that I've been playing around with, and this is the result. And that's it.
Thank you, Nina. Going into that, for all of you, is there anything that you want the audience to gain from your art? Before you answer, can anybody share their experience viewing all of this just now? Y'all gonna be shy on me now? It was amazing.
Your editing, she was like, and that wasn't even it was so crispy. It was crispy.
Thank you. I was proud of it.
Ruah.
Yes, that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for those who shared. So was there anything specific that you wanted the audience to receive from your artistry, or do you completely leave that up to the viewer?
See, I am kind of the opposite from you, Nina. Like, if the reader doesn't understand what's going on, I did not do my job. But I love that we like get to talk about like a different spectrum of experiences. Like it's just really cool that like you can look at a problem from like different perspectives. You can go to a protest and there'll be like the front page of the local newspaper the next morning, and then there'll be like the performance art, and then there'll be like like the kid who went and like changed their lives, or like you just look at this thing from like different perspectives, like the blind men and the elephant, like in that folktale, and you like get like a whole new thing based on just how you view it. So I think it's cool that you don't necessarily always have to look at things straight on, but you can look at them through like these like different tangents, and that's like super interesting and beautiful, like we just saw. Like I'm blown away. I'm just
I think for me, I said it like in the poem, but if you're in any organizing space, even if you're not, if you're just like in any community, uplifting the voices of the most marginalized is like as important to you and your liberation as it is to them. Because how does it work? It works from the ground up. It doesn't trickle down. So, yeah.
Yes, talk about it.
I guess I had trouble when I read this question because I was like, I don't really think about like the audience or like when I'm making stuff. I think like as a person, I kind of can like put myself aside a lot, I guess, and I can be very like people pleasing-y. And in my art, like I hate that. I'm like, I don't need to explain this to you. You can see what you want in it, and that's fine with me. But I've done what I had to do. That this was for me, you know. Like the process for me is very personal, and I feel like very proud and like happy to be able to say that. Because I feel like in a lot of other aspects of my life, like you know. You know, many of us are asked because of who we are, because of our identities, because of how we move through the world, to like move aside for others or to hold space. And so I feel like when I make art, like I'm making space for myself, for me, and I'm like I don't need to explain myself to you. You know, like see what you want in it. There's, you know, it's there. I just feel like I don't owe it. But like it's there for you to see, and I'd love to hear what, you know, like I'd love to understand what other people see in it, you know. And I get that context is important, obviously, but like I'm like, you know, it's there. Look at it.
That was a really good answer.
Yeah. Oftentimes, being from these backgrounds, you're taught to teach other people your perspectives in order to fight for justice. But where does that leave you? So you're taking this approach on centering yourself first, and that's beautiful. Like, put on your oxygen mask, please, before putting on everybody else's. And I'm glad that your art gets to revitalize you. Moving on from this chapter and going into, oh, can you click the, more into the last parts of the discussion. I'm gonna cry because this is such a beautiful time, and I love being here with y'all. I could talk with y'all all day, like if y'all have more questions. But what are some challenges that you faced before and after COVID, intertwining your artistries and intertwining your studies and forwarding the social justice movement?
This is stupid, but I was just tired, y'all.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like, you know, when you're a promising young Latina woman or whatever, it's like you have to carry the world on your shoulder. Like, I was working a part-time job, doing my studies, had an internship. I was just tired. And then on top COVID, like, ugh. So, like, really learning, you know, self-care is essential and it's vital so I don't shut down, was a lesson that I learned the hard way. Yeah. Learn from me. Don't be stupid. Take care of yourself.
I feel like I felt, I mean, obviously, like, a huge struggle was, like, not being able to share things with people in the same way. But also I felt like once there was all of this momentum toward action and movement and change and, you know, expressing all the frustration that has built up through these protests, the protests that happened, the George Floyd protests in 2020, I felt like, I don't know, I guess it was sort of like, how can I contribute in a way that is also like, that is sustainable, like you were saying. And so I was like, so, you know, how can I contribute through my art, I guess, was what I came to. And like, I don't know, trying to balance self. And also it feels selfish, like making art. It felt selfish, like making art for myself at a time like that. I don't know, that was kind of like a mental balance that was going on. And like trying to balance like taking action and being involved and raising funds for mutual aid and stuff, while also taking care of self.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I feel like that's super important and something that we don't talk about because the need is so pressing. Like, there's so much bad stuff in the world that we need to change, and we're like young and we have energy, but like the movement needs us for the next 60 years. Like, you know, racism didn't end just because eMeleK gave his I Have a Dream speech. Like, we still have things to do, and like if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to burn out, and then where's that going to leave the movement, you know?
I think one thing that's important to remember is that it might feel like the world is on your shoulders, but because you have community,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
we need to like well, obviously it's not our fault, I think, because we're trained to be hyper independent and depend on ourselves. Capitalism. But something it's taught me is to depend on other people to share the weight. Because, it's not just going to be an individual thing.
That goes in beautifully into our next question. Can you just amplify it more? How do you suggest, or what do you think others can do in the strive for social justice? I asked earlier if anybody's activist out here, and some people were shy. So how would you define activism, and what ways can we do to move towards movement?
In the words of Kwame Ture, join an organization. We all recommended you some really great ones, so you guys have no excuse. You have to join an organization. If you want to see our collective liberation, like working towards a goal with other people in an organized, communal way, you got to join an organization.
I'd also say just like start. Yeah, like you don't have to be on the front lines getting tear gassed. You can just hand out water. You could, literally just make sandwiches for someone. Like, just start. If it's something important to you, just like small things that may seem insignificant. Like, we build power collectively. So like, maybe someone's hungry and maybe your sandwich just like gave them the energy to like march. And that was what you did for the day. That's it. Like, it doesn't have to be like anything big or dramatic or that makes headlines. Just something that's important to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the same. We get like stuck in our heads and feel like activism is such like a hot word, like it's this big thing and it's gonna cause a big splash and people are gonna hate you and people are gonna love you and like, I don't know, there's this whole like momentous idea of what an action has to be in order to be activist or be activism. But I feel like if we can shift, that idea toward like helping, how can you help? And maybe your activism one day is like taking care of you. Maybe that's your activism, maybe, because also literally in a world that's built to tear you down, you building yourself up is doing the work. Taking care of yourself is doing the work, especially as people of marginalized identities, you know what I mean? And like you said, like centering the most marginalized identity because we lift up not only them but ourselves through that. Like how can you, I don't know, how can you help out someone? How can you, like today I bought, an extra bag of chips at the deli and I gave it to the, the guy on the corner, or I signed up my email in an email list for an organization, even if maybe you're still scared to be active or to volunteer, take a step and allow that to feel like enough. Like, I feel like at least for me, like I get stuck in my head of like, this isn't enough. And so I don't do anything. You get paralyzed. And that doesn't help anyone. So little things and allow yourself to feel good about those little things, because the little things add up.
Yes, thank you. So you said join an org, little ways to help those orgs and yourself in the process. So thank you for those advices. Is there anything that I didn't touch on today that you want to share with us as you have this platform?
Just want to shout them out one more time. We the People _ New York City. You can make food. You can volunteer to give out food. You can help in any step of the process. They also do other stuff. So yeah, and also for our liberation. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Is there anything that you would like to ask our audience over here?
Oh, first off, thanks for sticking it out. Y'all are superstars. Yeah.
You have no questions?
I hope you're all having a good day.
Do you want to share something?
Do I want to?
Yeah.
Naja,
The wonderful person who put it all together.
Organizer.
Yeah.
Wait, can we clap for her?
When the panelists ask you questions, hold on. Bro, Wow, the way that I did not expect that. Is there anything I would like to share? Okay. I went to the Collegium for African Diasporic Dance this weekend, and what we don't speak about or revere enough is Black dance studies, and there's a whole movement behind making sure that that gets recognized. There's a collective around making sure that Black artists, after they die, their work is curated and not thrown in the garbage. Like some of the families don't understand their artistry, so it's either thrown in the garbage or what the museums don't want, it's put in places that you can't retrieve anymore. So we're looking for a robust group of young people able to do that work. And if you want to know more information, holla at your girl. And I'm just really, really full right now, emotionally, physically, and I thank you for being here. Thank you for sticking it out with me. It was a whole process from November to February to get here now, and y'all are just amazing, amazing people. I'm so floored. I'm so astonished. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Naja.
Thanks for inviting us. It's been fun. It's been real.
Is there anything that the audience would like to ask our panelists here? You have this platform and get a chance to. Yay!
This is your chance.
Here's your chance.
I mean, unless, like, yeah, we get like an AMA or something.
Oh.
I was just curious, since you guys all are a part of activism, how do you practice rest?
I color. I said this at the beginning, but I love coloring. Okay, anyway, next.
This is corny, but I'm learning more about Islam, and I'm trying to pray more, and it gives me a lot of peace of mind that I don't think I had before.
That's not corny.
No.
Not even
It's
a little.
not. It's not. Wait. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I rest a lot. You know this. We live together.
Yeah, no, no.
I guess. I don't know. I don't know.
Is there any practice that isn't sleeping that is restful to you that you practice a lot? I guess is a better way to phrase it.
I listen to a good podcast. I draw and I listen to that podcast. I plug up all my senses so I can't think. And I'm just, yeah. Oh, Radiolab. Okay, if you're, okay. Radiolab is fantastic. If you don't know about Radiolab, please listen to Radiolab. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple Music, it's on podcast, it's on the podcast app. Listen to Radiolab. It's fantastic. Anything you're interested in, they have an episode on it. The sound engineering, incredible. The topics, incredible. Is it a little white? Yes, it is. I will admit that. Sometimes I get tired of it. I have to take breaks. But it's cool. It's so cool. Also, like, The Experiment is a really good podcast. You know. There's a really interesting podcast. Frick, I can't remember what it's called. Come back to me. But podcasts. Yeah, get into them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to ask anything? Yes, Ezeki. That's spelled how? How is it spelled?
E-K-I. Don't forget it. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, Naja.
Thank you, Naja. People doing the work.
Doing
the work.
Okay, kind of similar to other questions, kind of multi-parter, so answer whatever relevant for you. So I think you guys and this event is a great example of how the best, the truest artists are also activists, or corny as it may be, art is inherently revolutionary. But that being said, especially being marginalized folks, like, I was just wondering, how do you disconnect, or do you disconnect your social justice, social activism type of art from just art that you do just for the sake of art, or art that is therapeutic? Or are there any times, do you think that all of your art is inherently about social justice? Or Like, how do you backtrack when sometimes you feel like you're taking on the weight of the world, or you just want to, I don't know, like, do something different? And or how do you make your social justice art more just therapeutic and just art for art, and vice versa, if that makes sense?
This is a really lovely question. Thank you, Ezeki. That is a really interesting question. And I was thinking about this today. I feel like it's really important as like people of color, artists of color, writers of color, whatever, is your medium. Because of your identity, like people often will just associate your work with social justice because you are a person of color or a black person or a Latina person or a queer person, or you know what I mean? And so that's automatically assigned to you when sometimes that wasn't necessarily your intention. Like white people have this like weird privilege of like racelessness and like politicalness. And so I feel like it's really important to do that and to like make sure that there are times when you're creating things for you, but like also at the same time, like everything you do is political to an extent, you know? So I don't really know how to answer that question, but I guess like rest is important, and doing things that genuinely bring you joy and bring you fulfillment is a way to make sure you're balancing both those things, because like we've been saying, if you are continuing to make work that is like harrowing and emotionally engaging, then you reach a point where you're kind of like pulling so much out of yourself that there's not, you know, you have to make sure that there's you left, you know? Yeah, I don't know, I've just been thinking about that a lot, how like that association is often made for us without us, like, but I guess my answer would be like making sure that the things that you're making are bringing you fulfillment. Yeah, I don't know. What would you say?
I really resonated with what you said. Everything is political. So because art is my therapy, and the only reason I need therapy is because of this world that we live in, I feel like all of my art is going to have a piece of that, even if it's just about like this crush that I'm obsessed with, that like I wrote 5 poems about. It's still gonna be like, even if the content of it is not about revolution, it's gonna be inspired by it somewhat. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I definitely feel that. And I mean, more poetry, but sure as the day follows the night, sure as the night follows the eve, to thine own self be true. That, I believe, is Marlowe. And so long as like what I write, even if it's not a story about Latina people, if it's just like a story about, you know, the Avengers, love the Avengers, they're not Latina. They're not my identity. It's fine, I can write about them. So long as that story that I write feels true to me, then they can assign whatever they like to it. Like, it's not, you know, whatever, they're gonna assign it to it. And so long as the story is true to me and it resonates with me and I feel like it authentically captures who I am, then we're just gonna go with that.
Yeah, I feel like we like live, like you said, like we're living in this world, so everything we're doing is in one way or another a reaction to it. So it's like, you know, and this is another reason why like being interdisciplinary is like so important to me, because you can't live in this world and not react to it. You can't like walk into a classroom, into a class that's like about, you know, political science and not discuss what's happening in the world. Like at that moment, it just seems so unnatural to like not address the world that we're in. So like to imagine that it's possible to fully separate is, you know, it's an interesting thing to think about, because we're never not going to be dealing with the world, and we're never not going to be dealing with, you know, the pressures that are put on us and all the, you know, fucked up shit that we have to process constantly. But I think also like community, also like having a space where you are recognized and you can and respected, and where you can be and without the mask that is everything that is assigned to you before you even open your mouth, whether that's with people or even if it's alone, you know, like having a space where you can just be, and not feel like I have to get rid of these thoughts and I have to be rid of the, you know, all this shit that I'm processing in order to like feel peace. I don't know if that's realistic. So I guess like finding community and comfort in just being free and also doing things, yeah, that make you feel free and happy.
Thank you. That was such a beautiful question. Thank you, Ezeki. Does anybody else have any more questions? Okay. Well, I want to say thank you to the loved ones, to the people I don't know who's out there virtually and in here in this space. Thank you for everything. Miguel, for this opportunity. I'm really enthralled right now to be meeting and speaking with these beautiful people for the past 2 hours. Thank you, and thank you, everyone. Follow Teatro LaTea, preceding events for eMeleK 2022 event. Thank you.